Φίλες και φίλοι, έχουμε ακόμα μια εκπομπή η οποία θα είναι στα αγγλικά σήμερα. I have the pleasure to contact to have with me Mr. Axiotis in order to have an interesting conversation. Who is Mr. Axiotis? Mr. Axiotis is an international television and film producer with over 40 years of experience. And he has not only a remarkable career in storytelling, but also a deep, moving personal story that he will talk to us today about it. Mr. Axiotis, welcome.
Hello. Well, yes, thank you. I'm honored. I'm grateful and honored to be here. Thank you. Love meeting and talking to fellow Greeks. Always.
Always, it's great for us to talk and host in this interview with personalities from the Greek diaspora.
Right.
Because the Greek diaspora is huge.
Right.
And we have a lot of achievements as a diaspora, and we have a great influence in the American society. Now,
Right.
I would like to know, first of all, because the people wants to know, who is Mr. Axiotis?
Right.
So give us a short description of Mr. Axiotis.
In a nutshell, yes, I was born in Athens, Greece. I was adopted at 16 months. I was raised in Southern California by Greeks. Upper middle class, lived in Los Angeles. And because of that environment, because of how I was raised, I was able to get in to TV and film production, which I've done for 40 years. As some said, and I've talked to some other adopted kids where they're like, you hit the lottery. I mean, again, my parents, because some kids were not adopted by Greeks. So I was. And so I really I was very fortunate, and nothing's perfect. No family's perfect, but I am so grateful that my dad, Nick, was such a proud Greek, even though he was born there. My folks were born in Wisconsin, but their folks are from Greece. So my dad was always about the old country and the cultures and the traditions and going to church. And I was an altar boy. I did Greek dancing. We truly lived the Greek life, So and being always proud of the heritage and always playing the Greek music at holidays and always having Greek dishes along with American dishes. So that in a nutshell framed and shaped everything of my life. And so if it wasn't for those things happening, if it wasn't how it all worked out in the alchemy of life, how, it was Nick and Sophie who couldn't have kids, who left California, went to LA, adopted me. I don't know. I mean, I remember telling my daughters, I don't know what because I truly lived the American dream. I mean, I have 3 daughters. They've all been to college. My youngest now is going to go off to the Marines, and she's going to be an officer. Like, they've all succeeded. Where my origin story, being in an orphanage, my mother was 20, illiterate, couldn't, barely read, write, or speak, well. And to have the opportunities I had, so I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate. It was an amazing time in the 60s, 70s to grow up in California and work in Hollywood. So that in a nutshell is my life. And then I was able to get into the Producers Guild of America. I served 2 terms on the National Board. I'm in the Television Academy. I'm a member of in BAFTA. I'm Academy Circle member. So travel internationally. All these things were literally because of the being adopted, being chosen, right? Being adopted. And like I said, I've talked to some other people. I'm Facebook friends with some other kids who were out of the orphanage at the same time I was. And they're telling me I was in Idaho with American families. They didn't even know they were Greek. I mean, so again, all that. I mean, so I truly. Now, the only thing I wish, and obviously I don't blame education back then, but back in the late 60s, 70s, they believed, the school believed, that if a child knows two languages, it's bad. It's very bad. So I used to,
Yes.
so I had to stay after school, and they were making sure I was, when I'd say a word and it had a Greek accent, they'd say it again and say it, and I kind of got detoxed, but they said to my parents, don't speak Greek anymore in the house. No more Greek speaking, no more aunts and uncles or no one. So I forgot most of my Greek, that speaking Greek. So I could still hear people speak, and I could still understand some of it, but I really need to get back to I want to be fluent again, because at one point I was, and then again, they changed it. Now, of course, we all know that knowing multiple languages is a wonderful thing, but back then, so that's probably the only thing I wish didn't happen. Because
that's
of course,
a very important part that you say, because now we say this is what we're trying to do now through this radio station and through cooperations we have with Greek universities, etc. We are trying to make people again we need for sure to do something in order the Greek language to be spoken by Greeks.
Right.
So the point is, we didn't know that back then it was that problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a huge problem that they didn't allow you to speak Greek. And that's something that we didn't know that it was happening. Give me a moment.
Right.
Something is wrong here.
That's okay.
Okay. So this is something that we didn't know that it was happening.
Right.
So explain to me a little bit about this time that was in the 60s. Thousands of Greek people, they moved to the United States as adopted kids. Tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a couple things that went on in Greece. So obviously this started in the 50s.
Yes.
And they were saying this was political. The monarchy was with this, the government was behind this, and the church was behind this. So a lot of Greeks in America don't understand that the Greek church since 1844 has been paid by the government. So from what I've researched, what I've done, what I've learned on this film, there's a professor in London. Her name is Gonda Van Steen. She's from she's a King's College professor. And she's written books about this. And basically what we've researched, what we found out was this. This was a financial decision. This was saying, look, these pregnant women, these mothers,
yes,
are having illegitimate children, and we don't want to provide housing, food, aid. We just want these babies gone. We want them out. So in the 50s, they were saying, oh, it's war babies, it's after the war. But by the time I was born in 63, I had nothing to do with the war. We had nothing, there was no war, orphans. So the number I heard is anywhere from about 4,500. Most of us did go to America. I know someone to Australia, someone to Israel. So, I mean, they went other places of the world. The bulk of us went to Greece. So it was, and they say at the time that was what they called the largest black market baby scandal in the world at that time. Okay. So, and again, I was so fortunate. I know, in fact, I worked with a Greek guy. He's an editor when I was working on a TV show, and he was adopted and he went to Idaho, and his folks were, they're American. They were, and he was obviously grateful that he grew up in America, and, but still He's like, I end up in Idaho. I think I'm, I don't look like anyone that was white with me, and I don't look like my parents, and it wasn't until later in life he found out he was adopted, and it's in Greece. So, look, no government's perfect. I understand that. Churches and monarchies, I totally understand that. One of the things, and I know we'll get back to this, but when we're talking about doing the film Georgia, telling my mother's story, one of the things I've been working with Gonda, and Gonda did this last year, the Greek government now will allow, if you go back to Greece like me or an adult and say, look, I was found out I was adopted, I'm from Greece, they will now for free, they will work with you to reestablish your citizenship. When I did this years ago, I had to hire lawyers. It took 2 years. It took a lot of money. And I reestablished, because I have my adoption papers. And so I was just, my birth certificate says boy, brown hair, brown eyes. They wouldn't name us. They wouldn't baptize us. And I was T60 book 36. Luckily, my lawyer was able to go back into and the court, whatever they book, and find and now fill out my birth certificate. So, and then I reestablished my citizenship, which I was so humbled and grateful to do. And what I'd love to see this film do is I'd love to see the Greek government admit what happened. I'm not blaming anyone now today in the government because they weren't around then. And for them to say, look, we're sorry what happened to you kids. We're sorry what we did to your mothers. We want to welcome you back to Greece. We don't see you as illegitimate children. We see you as legitimate children. We see you as valuable, and you're valid, and we sent you abroad, but we want you to come home. We want to make it right, right? And so I hope that this story of what I'm doing for my mother, Georgia, can bring light to that. So all that to say, it was not a great time in Greece. It was a very turbulent time. It was bad. And again, no government, no country is perfect. We all make mistakes, and I get that. I love being Greek. I love my home country. Every time I go back to Athens, sorry, my dog. But every time, I go back, I feel right at home and out. Pippa. I'm sorry. Pippa. So every time I go back to Greece, I feel like I'm home. I feel like, oh, 1 second. Pippa, come here. I'm so sorry. There's someone at the door. So I feel like when I go back, I'm right at home, even though I don't remember anything about Greece. Obviously, I was 16 months old. Yet when I'm in that tiki, and I know the courthouse is still there, it's been converted, I think, into an art house. The orphanage has been torn down. The clinic is still there. And many times when I go to Athens, as I've been doing research for the film, I just walk around the streets. I walk around thinking my mother was here, right? I'm from here. And I'm proud. I know everyone's like, oh, go to Santorini, go to Mykonos, go to the islands, go to Kalamata. I want to do all that. But right now it's like, I just want to be in Athens because that's home to me. That's home.
I want to find my roots.
Right.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Going there, sitting there in a cafeño, like, I just feel like I'm home. This is my neighborhood, right? So, is it glamorous and beautiful?
In which neighborhood of Athens did you born?
I was told it's in Attiki, but I don't know
the exact place.
I don't know. I knew the clinic. The clinic is right in Syntagma Square, right by Parliament. I mean, the building's still there. That still stands, and the courthouse, the building's there. But they converted it to it's part of a mall, and it's like it's all, so the building's there.
Everything changed. Everything changed
so
there.
I still love to walk over there. I still love to walk around that building thinking my mother showed up in court. This is where I was adopted. This is where the orphanage is gone. So that was between, they said, foster care and orphanages. I was between those two. So, but it's still, again, I know younger kids say, oh, the energy of it, but I just feel being there is valuable and important. And getting back to something about speaking Greek, I got into Hollywood or production because of a Greek. And I'll tell you how it happened. I was about 12 years old. I was in this Little League football team. And they asked our football team to be in this TV show, Okay. There was back in the day, they got a thing called ABC after school specials. And there were these teen dramas that played 4 o'clock in the afternoon after school. So our football team, so all the parents say, okay, and we missed school for 2 or 3 weeks. They had a tutor for us. We were on location at this place, and we were going to be extras in this TV show. So we had our football uniforms. I had a helmet, and they told us, put your last names on a piece of tape on your helmet.
Oh, wow.
So we're all lined up, and the assistant directors, lining us kids up, and they're still, okay, here, and they're explaining what's going to happen when they're shooting. And behind them is Nick and Tony Frangakis, his two brothers. And he tells the assistant director, stop. He points at me, and I'm thinking, oh my, like I'm in trouble. What's going on?
That's right.
Yeah, he sees my name and he says, Axiotis. I said, yeah. And he says, Elenika, like, are you Greek? And I said, yes. And he says, do you speak Greek? I said, no. And he says, where are you from? I said, well, and at that point, we got to understand, I didn't know that I was adopted yet. I did not know at that point that I was adopted. And I said, yes, I'm Greek. And he says, come here. He calls me out. He says, okay, you're not going to be an extra anymore. You're going to eat with the crew. You're going to eat with us with the cast. And I'm going to give you a speaking part. Okay. And now Alex Karras, who's a football player, he's Greek. He was in the film. And so all of a sudden, instead of being with all the other kids and all the other extras, I'm now with the grip truck and the crew. I'm with makeup and hair. And I'm seeing all the camera people. And I'm just, he brought me into this world just because I was Greek. He saw my last name.
Fascinating, huh?
So, and I remember going home that day and I told my mom, I said, I don't know what any of that is, but I want to do that. And of course, most parents, my mom thought, oh, you want to be an actor? So no, I don't want to be an actor. I don't know what that is, like production, but I know I wanted to do that. And to this day, I tell people, the spark in me, the whole idea of being in production was from a Greek man. A Greek man saw my name. He called me in. And I will never, and this was back in that was probably 74, 75. That was a long, I was a kid. So about a year later is when I found out, because to play football, you have to show your birth certificate, your age and your weight.
Yes.
So I'm holding, which I didn't know, I'm holding my certificate of naturalization. Right. And we're handing our papers out. And one of my friends says to me, you're not from America. You're from Greece. You're not even this isn't your birth certificate. So I get home, I get in the car, I tell my folks, hey, were you guys on vacation in Greece when you had me? Because I'm not from here. Then my mom and dad are like, oh my God. So then they said, look, we adopted you. You're from a poor family. You had a mom, dad, and they had a farm and chickens and goats and whatever, but they couldn't afford you and we adopted you. So I'm like, wasn't happy about that. Obviously, I'm 12 or 13. It's a bad time to find out you're adopted. But I go, okay, that's my life, and I'm adopted.
And you just accepted that so easily?
Well, no, it was rough. I mean, because I found out all my aunts and uncles, everyone knew but me. Like everyone knew but me. So I was just. I was, at 12, you're going through puberty, you're in middle school. Just everything about life. And I'm trying to figure out okay, so I'm Greek. I'm from Greece. These aren't my parents, Yaya is not my Yaya. And, Theophante or Theocat, they're not, it's all, so I was mad. I was hurt. I was scared. I was a lot of things, but as
lots of questions.
So as in life, as kids do, you go on. Right. Nowadays it'd be very different, but back in the 70s, you go on. So as I said, I was very fortunate the way I was adopted. Now, my father, and I do love him and I do respect him, but he drank a lot. He was abusive. So we had physical altercations a lot where there were beatings. So now fast forward to, I'm 18 now. I just graduated high school to 1981. And we get into this, he comes after me. And now I'm fed up with it. And I fight him back. And now because I was bigger than him. So now I finally get him where he's shaking, he's scared, he's lighting a cigarette. And I said, I want my adoption papers. I want to know the truth. And it was at that point I found out, he's like, okay, listen, you're a bastard son, which I didn't know the term bastard son. The story we told you was not true. You're illegitimate. And he goes in, he gets the file, and he hands it to me. He says, there. So I'm in my bedroom. I'm 18 years old. I just graduated high school. And I'm going through the court documents. And I'm reading, the illegitimate, unnamed, unbaptized child of Georgia Caracas. And I'm like, I like, what's going on? And who's Georgia, right? So my mother, Sophia, comes in, and she was a saint. She was amazing. I was so blessed to have her. So she comes in, she's all right. What, she's crying, she's emotional. She's like, okay, she's been holding this truth in all this time. So she says, what can I tell you? I said, Mom, who's this woman, Georgia? And she says, honey, your mother showed up in court when most mothers never showed up in court. Your mom wanted to say goodbye to you. And your mom wasn't a woman. She was a girl. She was young. Because my mom, Sophia, who adopted me at that time, was around in like 34, 35 years of age. Georgia at that time was 21.
Oh, wow.
So Georgia was young. And what we did find out was back then in the 60s, they would notify mothers your child's being adopted just to notify the moms. Now, most mothers didn't have any legal right over their children. They didn't have any left out, any money. They couldn't have no lawyers. There's nothing they could do. So most never even showed up. So, and even in the court documents I have, the judge said the mothers appeared on her own behalf. So my mom, Sophia is telling me, we're in court, the judge is reading the decree, and he says that the mother has appeared on her own behalf. So now Sophia says to me, I'm realizing your mom's standing behind me, right? So the judge reads the papers, reads the whole hearing, right? Pounds the gavel. Someone from social services brings me over to Nick and Sophie Axiotis. Now, keep in mind, I'm 16 months old at that point. Georgia has not seen me for 16 months. She had me for 1 week in the hospital. And after a week, because she had no alternative, she signed me away to the state. So now she sees me, I'm 16 months old. So now Sophia's holding me. I'm there with Nick and Sophia. And Georgia walks over and says, can I say goodbye to my son in Greek?
Oh, wow.
And Sophia and Nick and Sophie could speak. They're fluent and, they could read, write, and speak Greek. So my mom, Sophia, hands me to Georgia. And my mother at the time, God bless her, Sophia, she's like, I knew, and she's apologized. I said, Mom, don't apologize. You gave me an amazing life. I everything I have is because of what you and Dad gave me. And she said, but I knew for me to get a kid, someone had to lose a kid. And I never thought I would see your mother. I never thought I'd see the mom. So she said, Georgia takes you, and you weren't pushing her away. You weren't fighting. It's like you knew it was your mom. You're caressing her face, and she's speaking to you. She's saying goodbye. She's never going to see you again. She said, my mother said, I heard her say, I love you, my beautiful son. I'm proud of you. And the last thing my mother heard her say was, I'm sorry. The rest of it wasn't that my mother didn't understand Greek. She did, but Georgia, I'm trying to, as I wrote this film and I wrote this script, when and of course I have no idea what my mother said to me, but I want to believe my mom said to me, like, I love you. I'm proud of you. Go follow your dreams. Go do amazing. I mean, she was trying to encourage me, right? So my mom said it lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes that Georgia was, and then she stood back up. She handed me back to Sophia. She said, "Efkaristo, thank you." And Sophie said to me something very interesting. She says, not only do I believe Georgia was thanking me for letting me say goodbye, but it was like, thank you, like, you're going to raise my son. Like, you're going to, And my mom said, the courtroom was silent. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone was, just like standing there. And I said, what happened? She says, we walked out and your mother stood there and watched you walk out, with us. We walked out with you. And of course, I never saw my mother again. So that changed everything for me. When I found out my young mother showed up in court to say goodbye, I've always told my daughters and people this, I'm now felt I need to show up in life where I can. I need to do whatever I can do. So fast forward, I got, graduate high school. I wanted to still get into TV film. I get in. In fact, first I was delivering tapes and stuff in Hollywood, and then I worked my way up to got into a PA. on a Disney show. And within 2 years, I was one of the youngest associate producers at NBC. So, and anything I could do, Georgia, and I'm so grateful that I have 3 daughters: Anna, Sophia, named after my adopted mother, and Georgia is named after my youngest, my mom, my youngest. And so I tried to always now live my life telling my girls, you're going to honor Yaya. I want you to go to college. I didn't tell them what to do, but I said, go to college, because Yaya didn't have an education. She's probably a 4th grade education. Go to college, follow your dreams, and to honor Yaya. And then anything else I ever did in life, any philanthropy I ever did, was to show up like my mom did. I had an opportunity. I went to Ukrainian war. I delivered $500,000 worth of medicine during earlier part of the war. I've been to the Syrian border. We helped orphanages over there with Children of War Foundation. In Los Angeles, we did Project Angel Food, where it was a food kitchen delivering food to people who could go get out. So it was always like, what little bit I could do, because it was to honor her memory. And the last thing I remember I was able to do in London, and I'm a member of BAFTA, I'm an Academy Circle member of BAFTA. They were remodeling their building. They were rebuilding their building, and they were building this new theater, Queen Anne Theater. And I donated money, and they said, well, we'll put your name on a chair. I said, don't put my name on that chair. Put my mother's name on that chair. So in the theater in London, a beautiful theater, my mother's name's on the chair. So it came to now, and so I've been going back and forth to Greece for the last 5 years to wanting to make this film, and I want to make a short film, because I just want to tell, even though there's a bigger story of 5,000 kids and the adoption scandal, I want to just tell her story. I want to show the world my mother showed up to say goodbye to her son. That with like she sacrificed with dignity, and she showed up. So I've been back and forth to Greece for 5 years. I hired different writers, and we tried to, and it always fell through, and it never worked out. So this year, in fact, or I'm sorry, not this year, last summer, I finally decided, you know what? I'm going to write the script myself. So I wrote the script. I already had our lead actress, Ifigenia, told us she's a famous actress in Greece. She's playing Georgia. And so
who's the name? What is the name of the actor?
Her name.
Actress?
Her name. I always forget the last. Hold on. I want to make sure I say it right, because she's in Greece. She's famous. Hold on. Her name is Ifigenia. Last name is spelled Tzola. Tolza.
Joza.
Yeah.
TZ.
Tzola. She's so in the poster.
Zola. Ifigenia Zola.
Yeah. So in the movie poster, that's her face. That's her. She's playing Georgia. And we now have the woman who's playing Sophia. We have the judge. We've casted the film. We have our locations. Everything's now been set. We partnered up with this company, or this nonprofit organization called Fractured Atlas in New York. Nice. And they do. And so if anyone wants to donate to the film, they could donate. It's a write-off. So that's all. We have a website. Oh, the other thing I did 2 years ago, I formed a company. I've always had, my production company has always been JPA Productions, my initials, because my name is James Foti Axiotis. But 2 years ago, I formed a company called Legitimate Son, because again, remember in the adoption papers, they said I was
illegitimate.
So my company, the company that's making this film, is Legitimate Son. So we have our websites up. The backstory of the film is up. They can go. In fact, they could donate if they go to the website. They could go there, see the QR code or the website, Fractured Atlas. So and the other thing I can mention is, before I started working on this film, my film on my mom, I just spent 4 years doing a documentary on refugees. Some of it was shot in Greece. It was called Another Place. I believe next month we got it on Amazon Prime. It's a full feature-length documentary about refugees. So all that to say, knowing the story of my mom, knowing what had happened, it was always something to me that this was a story that I had to tell. I wanted the world to know what Georgia
We're
did.
sharing with the people now.
There's the poster.
This is the poster, Georgia, a mother's last goodbye. Oh my God. It's amazing.
I just want the world, and we also partnered with, in Greece, in Athens, there's an organization called Win Hellas. They help domestic violence women it's a shelter. This film, we're going to do a screening in Athens. Mm-hmm. All the proceeds of that screening will go to them. Again, to honor Georgia's name. We're doing a screening in Athens. We're doing one in Toronto. We've partnered with Win Hellas because they do amazing work. And I want her legacy. I want her name. I tell people, to me, this isn't my story. You know, I am writing a book. I have it halfway done. My book is called Legitimate Son, about how everything in my life, how it worked out to be the man I am because of what I've been through. So the book will come out after the film, but it's called Legitimate Son. But this is Georgia's story. This is my mother's story. This is so many thousands of other mothers' story who lost their children. So all I know, so all the courtroom scene is lifted from the court documents I have. We have Ganda's our story consultant. I wanted to make sure everything we're doing is accurate and true. So people see, yes, it's a shameful time in Greece of what they did to the children. And that we'll get, the goal now is we want to shoot the film late February, March. And then we'll edit it and we'll finish the whole thing. We want to go to film festivals that are Academy Award qualifying and that are BAFTA qualifying, because that will get enough recognition. Obviously, I'd love to have Amazon, Netflix, or Apple buy the movie and then tell me they commit to make a feature film, not about me and not about my mother, but about the whole scandal.
The people need to understand something, that you have already established a very famous name in the producing place, and you have a lot of recognitions. You don't need an extra recognition like for this film. If somebody search for James Axiotis, we see that he has a great story in producing, in filming, in television, everywhere. So it's not that he's looking from one movie to become famous. He is famous. Right. Like being a BAFTA member, being everything, like, come on. But you know what I mean, right? You don't become a member of all these organizations like that.
Right.
You need to be someone.
Right.
But the point is that thank God you had a lot of things to say, because at one point I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. Like I was thinking, like, if I open my mouth, I will just gonna cry. That's it, nothing else.
God bless you, man.
It was amazing. The story is amazing, and what you do to honor your mother's soul and memory is amazing, because you're helping so many other people, and you're getting this scandal, I can say, of the 60s with Queen Friederike, etc., on the surface again, because they're trying not to mention it, but thousands and thousands of kids and people, they lost the most important part, their family.
Right. It's and to me, I would, if God willing, we do the film, we do the screening. If someone said to me, what do you want? What do you want? I said, as much as I want to do, the Win Hellas and partner with them and raise money for them, I would love to finally see this current government, this current prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it this way. If they could acknowledge what they did, if they could say, look, I'm not blaming anyone now in government. I know they weren't around then, right? But can you imagine if the prime minister, if the government formally said, look, what we did, what happened back then was horrible. We called you children illegitimate. We now say you're not illegitimate. You are valid children of Greece. You are a citizen. You're not illegitimate. You are legitimate. And we're sorry what we did to your mothers. We want you to come back to Greece. We will give you your citizenship. Be a proud Hellenic of your be proud of your Hellenic culture. We're sorry of this this tragedy, this travesty that happened, and welcome us back. Because I'm going to be honest with you, my brother. I am a proud Greek. I go back to Athens and a couple of years. I mean, I love my culture. I love my people. But I'll be honest with you. I still feel like they don't want me there. Like I don't, that I'm still not legitimate, right? I'm still not like, as if I left and I'm not really Greek and I was raised in America. And I tell fellow Greeks, I've argued with Greeks. I said, you guys act like I wanted to leave. I said, if it was up to me, I'd be in Athens. 5,000 of us would have been in Athens. But I said, that I wasn't given. My mother was afforded that opportunity. And I feel a distance from my fellow brothers and sisters in Greece. Now, not everyone treats me that way, but I'm saying there is this feel. And I just felt like if the government just said, look, again, I'm not saying they did it. This was 60 years ago. But hey, we're sorry. We're sorry to your mothers. We're sorry what we put them through. And we're sorry to you kids where you just went away to whatever family you went to, Greek or American, around the world. And we're saying we're sorry. We see you now as legitimate children. You are valid and you're a part of our culture, a part of our heritage. I mean, they were getting rid of the soul of their nation. When you get rid of your babies, that's the soul of any nation to me. And they're just like, go, we're done. So I also, the notros, the Greek word notros, illegitimate, like the research we found out that came with the church or someone said, look, let's just deem these babies not like illegitimate. And that way,
how can a baby be illegitimate? Like, it's not legit just a kid that has mother and father and that they are married.
Right.
What do you mean illegitimate?
Right.
It's a kid.
Right.
It's a kid. Sometimes things happen in life.
Right.
And yeah, for some reason they cannot be married.
Right.
And why just being married makes you legitimate? Right. This is so wrong.
Right.
No kid is illegitimate. All the kids, they are legit, and 99% of them, they are act of love.
Right.
So you cannot say something like that. Now, when they cannot grow them up, like Greece, after the Second World War, World War II, and after the Civil War, don't forget that. And after all these things that we had, people, they were very poor. Sometimes they couldn't. And sometimes the mentality of their families.
Right.
It was completely wrong because the whole society was wrong on this situation.
Sure. Right. Right.
So what do you mean illegitimate?
That's what I say. I'm not, as much as I'm hurt, as much as I didn't like it, but I did, because listen, you can't get healing until you apologize. Put it this way, my friend. If you and I, if I'm following you and you're driving your car and I run by accident, I hit your car.
Yeah.
The first thing out of my mouth should be, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Right? When Greece will apologize and say what we did was, then you can get healing. But you have to admit what you did was wrong. You don't make excuses. You don't run around and say, well, there was a war and there was this. I understand all that. All countries have made mistakes. But I'm saying to you, I mean, I was in Germany at a film festival. You want to talk about a country that owned up to what they did wrong in the world. I mean, they have monuments. They have Israel. I mean, they're all about what they did. They know what they did. The Holocaust was horrible. Okay.
Correct.
So I'm just saying, I'm not asking Greece to build a monument to us 5,000 kids. I'm just saying, step forward, say, look, what we did, what they did was wrong. We see that it was wrong. We're sorry. And again, please come back. You can get your citizenship. We'll reestablish your citizenship. You're not illegitimate. You're legitimate. You're a valid citizen. We care about you. You're a part of our culture. You're part of our DNA, right? Then it's over. That's all I want. Then it's over. For me, for my daughters, for my grandchildren, we're not on the side. We're not illegitimate. We're not like, well, you're not really Greek. No, you're one of us. The other thing I found out in my research was, because I hired a genealogist because I wanted to make sure that my mother, I'm a Caracas, was most likely they figured out my dad's Armenian, which I know there were a lot of Armenians that fled during their whole genocide. So that, and again, I'm not one of these Greeks who's like, oh, I know that I'm Greek, Armenian, Turkish, I'm part Italian, even Hebrew. I mean, there's a lot of us in that region. There's a lot of different cultures, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, Athens is my home city, and I want to make this film. And I would love it if the government would work with us and we could do a screening of the film in Athens somewhere, have the prime minister and government, and just say, look, like, hey, we're going to put an end to this. We're going to apologize, say we're sorry, and move forward, right? And bring healing, and then let the rest the thousands of us that are still alive that are around could go and bring their children and their grandchildren, and like, this is where Yaya Papu or whatever, this is where they're from, right? So that would be, and then for me personally, I could say to myself, I could say to my mother, Mom, I told your story. The world knows your story. I had a friend of mine in the Producers Guild years ago said, why aren't you making this film? Why aren't you making this story? Like, that you have an amazing story. So here's what happened to my brother. Last November, there was a website called I'm Adopted, and they're on Facebook, Instagram, and they have YouTube page. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, can you want to share your adoption story? So I'm like, okay. And I typed up a 1-page about my life, my adoption, my mother, Georgia, what happened. The guy 2 days later says, James, your story has gone viral. It's gone 3.5 million views. Like, it just, the world is blown up with your story. And because for a time I thought, if I make this movie, maybe only Greeks will care about it, not non-Greeks. But I'm realizing the story resonates.
This is a global thing.
Yeah. The story resonates with a mom who shows up in court to say goodbye to her son because she had to. She had no other option. So she did the right thing. She sacrificially showed up, and she wanted to tell her son, which I still. I mean, again, any good that I do, any things I do with my daughters, it's like I want to honor my mother of whatever she told me to be. Hey, can I hold one second? I got to step away for 1 second. Is that okay? Just give me 1 second.
Not a problem.
Okay, let me step away. I'll be right back.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, έχουμε ένα μικρό διάλειμμα. Είναι πάρα πολύ συγκινητικό το γεγονός ότι έχουμε να κάνουμε με την ιστορία Ελλήνων. Με την ιστορία Ελλήνων οι οποίοι πραγματικά, χωρίς να μπορούν να κάνουν κάτι γιατί ήταν βρέφη, και οι γονείς χωρίς να μπορούν να ανταπεξέλθουν σε αυτό το πρόβλημα, χωριστήκανε. Ήταν ο καιρός της βασίλισσας Φρυδερίκης, ο καιρός του εθνάρχη, θα λέγαμε, όπως θέλουν να τον αποκαλούν, Κωνσταντίνου Καραμανλή, και όλων αυτών, οι οποίοι δεν σταμάτησαν αυτό το κακό, και μιας λανθασμένης εκκλησιαστικής προσέγγισης όσον αφορά τα παιδιά εκτός γάμου. Και βέβαια υπάρχουν και πάρα πολλές κλοπές, και αυτό είναι γεγονός, παιδιών από μεευτήρια, όπου τα παιδιά αυτά στα μεευτήρια, επειδή ήταν νόθα, τα κλέψανε και τα δώσανε γεωθεσία όχι μόνο στην Αμερική, στη Γερμανία και παντού. Mr. James, I'm just mentioning to the people right now that it's not something that was happening to just 5,000 people. Back then, with Queen Friderici, Konstantinos Karamanlis, the church that was completely wrong on the approach of the kids out of the marriage. They stole a lot of things also from nurseries or from wards. Kids that were just from one mother and no father around. And they sold it because this is a selling.
Right.
What these governments did, not only to the States, to Germany, to Australia. If we put down how many Greeks, they were sold out actually to all these countries from this government back then, you have goosebumps when you read the numbers.
Right.
Let's do something different now, because let's do something different. Yeah. Let's talk about Axiotis, about James and his work, his achievements. Like, we know that, and we hope that this film will have, I'm certain that will have a great success, because it's something that gets into the Greek genes and touch everybody, that because this is not something that happened only to Greece, happened all over the world. Right. Even US girls, they could because their families, again here in the States, they said like, oh, it's illegitimate.
Sure.
So they had to give their kids away. Now let's go to your work. Talk to us about a little bit about your philosophy on production, your philosophy. How do you approach, in general, concepts and projects?
I will say, early on in my career, obviously, when you're working your way up, you're just trying to get a job. And I worked in TV, film, reality. I did 5 seasons of Hell's Kitchen. I mean, I've done. You just need to. You have a family. You want to provide, right? And then along the way, and again, going back to this legitimate thing, as I wanted to get in the Producers Guild, which is you got to work hard to get in, get accepted. You have to prove who you are. Get in a television academy. Those were always things of like, I want to be legitimate. I don't want to just say I want to prove who I am, right? And so as I got older and things got better in my life, then it turned into I want to do more storytelling. I want to tell stories of humanity. Back in 2020 or 2021, I believe, I helped fund and start the startup, a thing called Producers Without Borders. My company paid for this first 7 events. Like, we were in Cannes, Venice, Cannes Film Festival, Venice, LA, London. And then my production company produced videos for them. I was a legacy sponsor of that because, again, I'm all about, I always tell people I'm a Greek American, right? I have 2 passports. So I want to view the world through the lens of international storytelling. And obviously, when I can bring in Greek stories, I will do it. So now, last we're late, like I said, recently when I did that film, we started in 2021, the Another Place. That was an opportunity for me at my company to fund. I was executive producer of this, and it was this young girl. Her name was Gisette. It was a Fulbright scholarship gal. She approached me. She wanted advice, and I said, you know what? I'm going to fund your film. And so, we did the film. I'm very proud of it. Like, again, some of it goes through Lesbos, where a lot of refugees went through that island, and it was traumatic, but it was a true story about 4 different stories of refugees. So the ethos now is like 2 things. One is truth telling, real stories that after I tell Georgia, there's other things I want to do, and stories I have. I do have a legal drama that I wrote 16 years ago called Thy Will Be Done, about a Greek family, a law firm. That's a whole nother, but I want to do that. I want to, one thing my daughter Georgia brought up to me, she says, Dad, where are we represented in TV and film? Where's, in Italian culture, you see the Sopranos and all these TV shows and movies, you see these other cultures represented. Yes. She's like, where is, not in comedy, not, I know Big Fat Greek Wedding, the dad with the Windex, but where's an actual Greek person or a Greek family in a
Correct.
TV show or movie that she's like, name one. I said, and so I would love to see that change culturally. I will say this, I heard the numbers are anywhere 15 to 17 million Greeks worldwide. We are what I call a cultural minority. And I would love to see us more band together culturally to help each other. I still see a disconnect where we're not helping each other, right?
That's
so
true.
I want to see Greek representation in TV and film. The other thing I want to do, for again, on the back of my mother, is I always try to, on any job when I'm hiring, I try to bring as many women as I can. And I'm proud to say, even on my film, we have now my line producer, unit production manager, coordinator, AD, and co-producer are all women. Okay. Most of them are all in Greece, but they're amazing, talented women. Because I said, I'm not going to make a story about my mom with a bunch of men. I'm going to, and we have Michael Palomedinos, who's our DP. He's won an Academy Award. He's been nominated twice. He's amazing. He's part of this. So the twofold thing is to, in honor of her, tell stories like her story. And I know I want to do some work down in Nigeria. I wanted to go down. I love going. I know this sounds crazy. I love going to war zones or orphanages where children, like when I've been on the Syrian border, there are kids in tents, their parents were murdered or blown up on IEDs. And even though I'm not a war, child like that, I'm not in those, an orphanage, but I relate, I connect to, just because of where I'm from. I relate to these kids.
Being an orphan doesn't matter how did you become an orphan.
Right.
The only thing that matters is it is an orphan kid. That's it.
Right. So these refugees, these refugees, these children around the world. I love going to now. Once we finish the film, we go to festivals, we promote the thing. If I'm not doing a film, I'd rather go to refugees. I'd rather go to war zones. I want to go to the war. I want to go to the children. Again, the children, just like I went when I was in Ukraine. I went to Kyiv and Lviv. We delivered medicine to children's hospitals. It was not about me. I know I got some press coverage about it and everything, but I said, these children, in fact, I was trying to go back at Christmas time because I wanted to give them Christmas gift. And they said, it's too dangerous to go in now. You can't, whatever. So that to me will always honor my mother. If I'm not doing a film or production, if I'm not doing a true story that whether, and I call this film, the movie Georgia, which to me, there's no other name but Georgia to call this movie. It's Georgia. It is a political drama. It's a political drama. I mean, there was politics involved. The church was involved. The monarchy was involved. And I want to continue doing those kinds of stories that will move the ball forward, that will heal, that could, and of course, in that same narrative, even though my story is about my mother's last goodbye, it's family. She's my mom. She's my mother. Georgia will always be my mother, right? So, and now moving forward, every film and every TV project I do will be made or produced by a legitimate son. And that way I feel like I'm stamping out the lie that I'm illegitimate. And the thing about this too, really, it so grieves me. My mother stood in court and twice the judge said the illegitimate child of Georgia Caracas. She was in court hearing that. A 21-year-old girl, 20-year-old, had to hear like the judge say, and I'm thinking to myself, she carried me for 9 months. What do you mean I'm illegitimate, right? And they said it's on I have the court documents. It's in my twice. So yes, sometimes I'll be honest with you, brother, I get upset, I get mad, but other times I just want to cry or shout or pound the walls. So I just want to make this film. I want to get support. I know, like I said, we have fractured outlets out there where people could donate. We're trying to reach out to some higher level people that could donate, that want to be executive producers, because I believe the story needs to be told. I believe the world needs to know what Greece did. We could heal it. And then that they know what Georgia did. So,
you know what? I apologize for interrupting you.
That's okay.
But now you gave me a great idea. With your help, it could be a great project for us here in Greek News and Radio FL, with your help. to do one radio marathon just for these kids, the illegitimate kids,
right,
all over the world.
right.
If you have the time, of course, we can cooperate together and dedicate one day
Okay.
to all these people, to bring them here in the radio, to bring them here with Zoom, everybody to tell their story, and to try to communicate and coordinate together to bring this truth to the light,
Right.
and even force the Greek government to say this, you know what, the only thing I can tell you is I'm sorry.
Right.
Nothing else. And yes, you are legitimate, all of you, because
Right.
you are Greeks.
Yeah,
I believe it would be great.
I would be on my mother's back and the back of so many other mothers, and I like I said, I've met maybe 5 or 10 other what I call kids. We're grown adults.
Yeah.
And you know what I feel. I can tell in all of them, they're all hurting. They're all, because all their adoption papers say the same thing:
illegitimate.
Yeah, and so when you find that out, when I was 18, when I found that out, it's like no government, no church, no monarchy, no one has the right to say, okay, James, you're legitimate. This guy, he's not legitimate. This girl, to start deeming value of people, right? We are all valuable. In fact, if we're, in our faith, in our church, we say we're fearfully, wonderfully made. We're God's children. And we had a government say, no, not these 5,000.
You have the church also, who supposedly represents God.
Right.
Says you are legitimate because they are not into a marriage, into a Christian marriage. And
I'll tell you what also, and again, I serve in my church, I'm an usher, but I'll tell you, it still bothers me. The Orthodox, the Divine Liturgy, we always say our oath, and we say I was baptized for my salvation.
Correct.
Why did the church let 5,000 of us be unbaptized? If they believe that these children, if they're not baptized, they're going to go to hell, they let 5,000 children be unbaptized. Now, again, luckily for me, I was adopted by Greek family. I was baptized around the age of 2. Okay, so I am baptized in the faith. And I did hear things where there were priests trying to baptize the babies, but not all of us got baptized. Obviously, even on my adoption papers, illegitimate, unnamed, unbaptized. So I don't know if you can see it. I have the tattoo T60
yes.
book 36. That is my tattoo. And I have the word illegitimate on my arm. And then I have below that Axiotis, worthy. And I did that as a memory of saying, even though they said I was illegitimate, and how God worked it all out. I'm so grateful that my last name is Axiotis, Axios, right? I got to be worthy.
Correct.
So now it's a matter of being worthy, doing good things, giving back to people. If once we make this film, once we get it out, and the Greek government admits what happened and apologizes, then think about and not just the 5,000 of us adults, but then our children and grandchildren.
It's exactly.
So I just feel like it's so much. This is so much bigger than me, and that's why I keep telling. It's not my story. It's my mom's. It's not my story. I have 5,000 brothers and sisters. We all suffered with. There. I met a woman. This poor woman, her mother was told the baby died at birth, and they took.
This is how I said they stole babies.
Right. So that God bless this woman. When she found out, she went back to Greece. She actually was able to find her mom before her mother died. So the mother, her entire life, was told the baby died. And this girl shows up and to her mom says, "Mom, you're my mom." And she found her, right? So horrible stories. Now, obviously my mother's passed away. All I ever wanted to do, my dream was to find Georgia and tell her, I love you. I'm proud of you. I did the best I could do to honor you. I named my daughter after you. You have 3 granddaughters, Sophia, Anna, and Georgia. And I'd want her to know that I hope she never felt ashamed. I hope she never felt less than. And I know society back then, oh, you got pregnant, but I just wanted to hug her and tell her, like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you did. And I did everything I could so my girls remembered you and honored you. That's I think for most of us, and like I said, the ones I've met, they feel, even though they went on with their life, they had careers, got married, but I think there's a part of us that are all fractured or broken.
It is.
And
it is.
So hopefully that could end that part of it.
Yes, they can. I believe that this wound can never be closed, can never be healed. But it's a satisfaction to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right.
At least this can ease the pain a little bit.
Right.
The pain doesn't go away from whatever they did. It doesn't matter sometimes. Like, it's like a deep stump wound. Whatever happens in the life, this wound always gonna bother you deep inside. That's true. Mr. Axiotis, I'm very honored that today you were here with us and you shared that amazing story. Like, it's not like a story, it's a truth. It's what happened to thousands of Greek children that they may hear us today. They may watch this interview, this storytelling, I can say, in YouTube. And I cannot imagine how they will feel.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate you guys and the fellow Greeks. Anytime we've been on anyone who's helped us get the word out, any podcast I've been on, I just so appreciate, because there are those, some people don't know about it, some people do. So I appreciate you taking the time and saying, we want to help tell the story. We want to, get this word out. And yeah,
this is the most important part.
Right.
To get the real stories out, to get the truth out.
Right.
Or else you are not a radio station, you're not a newspaper, you're nothing, because you need to get the truth out. And this is a huge and very painful truth.
Right. And like you said, too, I mean, yes, I'd love the government to acknowledge it. Yes, I'd love the apology. But you're right. At the end of the day, I'll never see my mom. My girls will never see Yaya. They'll never know Yaya. Right.
Do you have any picture of her or something?
No, the only picture I have I could send you is I have one photo. The only baby photo I have of me was my mother, me and Sophia in the orphanage. I do have that. And I will send that to you. I did last night send you, because I don't know if you had the latest script, my biography.
We have everything.
I sent you. I want to make sure you had everything.
Everything.
But I will send you the picture of me and my mother, Sophia, who chose me. But so it's basically, that's the only baby photo I have of myself. I was 16 months old. And so I do have that. I could send that to you. And again, Sophia was an amazing woman. And so it is, in a way, I say this sometimes too, it's a story of two mothers, right? One loses a son, one gains a son. And so, again, older Greeks have heard about the scandal. There's a whole generation of Greeks, my friend, who don't even know this happened. When I tell them, they're like, oh, so I'm almost like, I'm 62. Like, you got to be above 50 years of age to even know about this. And I've moved throughout the country. I lived on the East Coast, the West Coast. And when I talk to the priests, a lot of the priests, oh yeah, I heard something about that. I heard about that, So people know, but not. So I do believe in.
Or they do not admit that.
Or they don't admit it. Right.
Because it's very bothersome to admit that we did that mistake.
Well, it's a scandal. I mean, it's and I met people who make excuses for it. Say, well, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, what do you mean it's not that bad?
I know. Ask me, and tell me how I feel.
Exactly. I'm telling you, And they just, you know, and I said, illegitimate. We were like, you know, and oh, well, you know, it's like, it's, you know, with some people, it's fine, whatever. As my mom would say, to each his own. I don't want any problems with anyone. I'm not trying to start a civil war. I want healing for myself, honor my mom, honor these other, when I say children, us, and our children and our grandchildren. And then help. We'd love to do a premiere. We're planning with right now. In fact, I talked to the president 2 days ago, Maria, and she wants to do a screening at like the opera, some big opera house. We want to raise money for Win Hilas in honor of my mother's name. And if, and I'm hoping and praying that we can get some people from Parliament and the Prime Minister, and it just a short, you know, acknowledgement. We're sorry.
It's very hard. If to be frank with you now, not for this government only, that didn't show a lot of good willing, but any government. Right. It's very hard to admit that.
Right.
Because they are not used to admit their mistakes.
Right. No, I understand. I totally.
And you know what they are afraid also? They are afraid that if they admit it, maybe there are lawsuits. You know what I mean? Maybe somebody may come back and ask for something.
Yeah, I don't want any left out. I don't want any money.
No, I know.
You know,
but this is their
because some people talk about, they talk about reparations. They talk about, you know, the government did this and you owe it. So look, the government's already, as of last summer, they're now saying, if you come back here and you're adopted, we will establish your citizenship for free. So they are, you know, spending money. They are helping. So that's good. That's one part of it. The other part is, we're sorry. So ignore me. Like, I'm sorry. To your mothers who are no longer here, most of your families are gone, and again, that could do so much good for our country, for our people around the world, right? Correct. It's something that something we did wrong, and we corrected it. That's it. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. So I brother, I really appreciate it. Let's stay in touch. I will send you the photo of me and my mom at the orphanage. If there's anything else I could do, whenever you want to do this, dude, I'm around. I'm here. I love you guys. I love your heart. Thank you so much for just.
Thank you so much.
You're my Greek brother. I mean, see, this is the thing. See, where you is so. See, here in America, like I'm boom, it's instant, like Greek brother. But when it's that separation in Greece. I go there and they're like, I'm like, I got a Greek passport. Like, I'm a citizen. You know, and I want family. I don't have, my mom and dad are gone. My adopted parents are gone. So I'm still would love to find family, but I also realize I've told people I want to go to Greece like you, like when I say you're my brother, I want to make my family. I want to make family along the way.
That's true.
Because my blood family is gone. They're gone. Right. So now culturally, these are my people I want to, you know, connect with and make family.
That's very true, and that's something very doable.
All right, man. All right. Well,
thank you so much.
All right, brother. Take care.
And we're gonna take care, and we're gonna be in touch for sure. Have a great day.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Φίλες και φίλοι, ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που ήσταν και σήμερα εδώ. Ήταν μια καταπληκτικότατη συνέντευξη. Και θα επανέλθουμε πάλι σύντομα με μία ακόμα. Να είστε καλά.